started.
Oh, Elliot WW again. Let's start off with C4 this time. Yeah, it's time for an English. Maybe we'll get some kind of symmetrical English here. We'll see. D6. Okay, so I can go E4 here and get a get a Botvinnik setup. Go ahead and try that again. And looks like black can play a King's Indian. Is playing a King's Indian. But he hasn't played E5. I play C5. So it's also a way to play the King's Indian with the Benoni type of setup. I'm going to castle here. He's not yet putting any pressure on the center. Let's see. I'm going to stop his knight from coming into B5. And then I'm going to kick the bishop back. I don't want my knight to be pinned. And the bishop has nowhere good to go anyway. Okay, so now he's hitting this pawn. Let's just defend it with the D pawn. This opens up a diagonal for my bishop. It sets up a very solid center here. And I'm still going to push on with F4 and maybe F5 at some point, but I don't have to be in a hurry to do that. I could play knight to F4 and then knight to E5 first. That might be interesting. And let's see, let's try knight to F4 right here, because his bishop at this particular point in time has nowhere to go. He just blocked it with his knight. He's probably getting his knight out of the way so he could push the f-pawn forward. But he can't push the f-pawn forward while I'm attacking his bishop.
Check.
Yeah, it's true. He has that check. I just move my king out of the way. I often overlook that move, so that's something you should watch out for. He gets that diagonal when you play like this, when you push the f-pawn. Can get that diagonal. Okay, he's hitting a couple pawns here, but he's has not done anything about the bishop, so I'm going to grab it. It's not that I want a piece, it's just I get the bishop pair. And now I could push on with f4. Where's the knight going? Here and here I take it, here and here I take it, so it goes back to c6 or to f7. c6. Okay, so how to proceed from here? I can harass his bishop a little more with knight to e2. Knight to b5 looks a little more attractive, doesn't it? Knight b5 hitting the bishop. I would trade it off if it didn't retreat. But let's start by playing rook to b1. He retreats anyway. So where do I want my bishop? I wonder if I can play f5 at some point. He's got two pawns on it. So I would lose a pawn playing that now, but would open up this diagonal for my bishop, so it might be useful at some point. Also, yeah, let's get the knight here to e2. The knight's ready to hop into f4 when I play f5. Or maybe to trade off his knight. We'll see. Is his knight going anywhere useful? Not especially. Let's just push on the queen side then. Now if I take here and he takes with the knight, no, that's not. I was thinking maybe I was winning that knight, but I'm not. But now maybe I'm threatening to take there. Or take here first and force him to take back with a pawn. Leave him with a kind of messed up pawn structure. then play pawn to e5. Cutting off his bishop and keeping these pawns squashed. So pawn takes, let's see, he could try and throw in knight takes. Yeah, he just moved his queen. Maybe his queen is coming over here to the king side. So let's think about this. Pawn takes, if he just takes with a knight, I grab his knight, so that loses a piece. If he plays knight takes, I have to take back, I guess. And that might lead to the exchange of this dark squared bishop, and then he takes back here. That is probably a good exchange for me. Let's go ahead and play this way. Took with the pawn. Yeah, that was the other way of playing. So now I can play e5, and this opens up this diagonal for my light squared bishop, and this is losing a pawn here. He has to move it back or trade. Decides to go back. So what's a good move now? A bishop to c6 to clear this diagonal for my rook. Clear this file. Clear the file for my rook. At some point maybe d4. Or taking the knight here. Yes, ought to be good because it seems like he has no moves with his squished bishop here. But I don't know, maybe he can untangle somehow. He's going to try and maybe push the g-pawn forward to soften up my king side. And let's see, if I advance the a-pawn, I can bring it all the way forward, and then this becomes weak. Kind of a slow plan, but let's see how quickly he can respond. If he just pushes g5, I can ignore it for one move, because if he takes, I'll take back. It's well defended by the rook and the knight. Or I could even take with the rook. Taking with the pawn is better to keep this e5 square firmly in my control here. Okay, so he's changed his tack, and now he's looking at the d file here. This pawn, though, is adequately defended at the moment, too. Okay, so he stopped me by playing a6, which he probably had to do because the threat of me playing a6 was pretty serious. So let's see, I can bring my knight around somehow, right? Knight here, here. Where do I want to get to with the knight? Square. Actually, I do just want to push. Maybe I'll get my queen out of the way first. And then push the d-pawn forward. Get my queen away from the direct view of this rook. And I'm thinking d4, pawn takes, knight takes, bishop takes. He does have a discovered attack on my bishop with the knight by moving the knight. So maybe I need to bring a rook over first. He really is, I really have taken away a lot of moves from black. He really has trouble finding a move here. But, well, I still have to figure out a way to break through, too. So I'll keep alert for any mistakes and try and build up. But rook to d1 and pushing the d-pawn forward looks like it should be good. And that's an interesting way to play. It stops me from pushing the d-pawn forward for one move. Let's start by bringing my rook here. And I can bring my bishop to e4 there to kick his queen back. But I want to be able to follow that up. I want to follow up bishop e4 with pawn to d4. So I need to bring the rook here for that pawn to d4 move. So he goes away. I don't have to play bishop e4 now. He went away. He's looking at the knight, which is defended by the queen. I have to keep that in mind. Let's just push on with d4 now. He doesn't yet have pressure on the h-file here. Okay, so now I have two pieces looking at the b7 pawn, and it's not so easy for him to defend it. So this is what happens, I guess, when your opponent has a cramped position. He can't maneuver his pieces around to defend all the spots that need defense, and his bishop is out of play here. Okay, so he sacks the knight. I think this is a sacrifice. I mean, that was my idea, was to put the rook here so my bishop would be protected in this situation. Let's take. He can play rook takes rook, and his queen is looking at that square, but I have a queen and a rook defending it. So I thought I was still okay here. Yeah, I'm a piece up, and he has 2 pawns for the piece. He can grab on he can grab on e5 there. So now what? Yeah, he's also looking at this pawn. I don't want to lose any more pawns, so let's defend the a pawn. You know, my far-flung adventures have left me with some weak pawns. It defends the a pawn, supports rook to e1 here. Maybe I'll chase the queen off the e-file and snag some of these pawns. Yeah, and he goes there. So I want to defend both of these pawns. And he wants to take it. So I'm going to play rook to e1, I think. Give up another pawn, but I'll get this pawn, and this should be important. There's also a skewer on this diagonal, so even if he defends that, he's going to go for this this queen trade. Okay, let's see if this is any good. Yeah, it is good because he's got the check. He didn't play it. He should have checked. Rook here check, and I have to block with the bishop. And then what have I got? Here I have tricks.
Check. Check.
Wow, his king is marching forward. Can get one more pawn, but I don't know, it makes me a little bit nervous, that pawn marching forward. If I take, he pushes, and I come back here, he can trade off and then queen, because my king is too far away. Is that true? After he takes, I take. He pushes again. Yeah, if he gets this light square before my bishop can control it. So it's probably not safe for me to take that pawn. Let's go here and get my rook in front of that pawn then. So my bishop and my rook are coordinating on that pawn, so we can't easily defend it. He can, so let's bring my king over now. He can take my pawn over here, but he's bringing his king over first. That's Interesting. Thought my bishop here could help. Let's see, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm one step behind here. Yeah, actually this looks good for black. so I blew this somehow. He should have a winning endgame here now. Just by pushing that pawn.
Check.
Maybe that works too. Well, I'm going to play this out, but it looks like he's got a win here.
Check.
The rook versus the bishop is pretty strong. And I have to give the bishop up to stop it. So I'm going to resign here. So good game. I will upload this and do a postmortem. I just I had a good start, but I got a little sloppy there in the end game. That happens. Okay, see you guys later. Bye.